Of course. And I guess specifically, Greedy, perhaps. I really want to thank Ms. Ishik for coming on this as well today. Thank you for all you do for Windsor-Essex. It's a it's very, very important. And as you had mentioned in your opening remarks, there's probably not many of us, unfortunately, that don't know somebody that has reached out for your to those types of services. So thank you very much to all of you. Specific to Ms. Zishik, can you comment on the impact of COVID-19 on instances of domestic violence over the past year? And are there recommendations you have on how the government can ensure better support is provided to survivors?
Thank you so much for the question. And so what I can tell you, certainly in Windsor-Essex, what we saw initially during the first phase of COVID, it was actually quiet in terms of our crisis calls, our women who were reaching out, accessing shelter, wanting to access shelter. It was actually very quiet to the point where it was scary that they weren't reaching out. And I think that was because there were so many unknowns, right? And the fear and the fact that they, are being told to stay at home and not knowing what's happening with COVID and the mixed messaging. So, but what we did notice is once the restrictions started to lift, we did see a surge in calls and a surge in women accessing our shelter, but also all of our outreach services. Obviously, we had to suspend some of our outreach services in person, but we continue to provide those virtually. But our shelter has been open, and we continue. The problem we're encountering is capacity. We are, as you know, population-wise, we do not have enough beds to adequately accommodate women and children accessing. We have 42 beds for all of Windsor-Essex County, and we do not have enough beds. We did have to, the provincial government did help us with accessing a hotel. But at one point, pre-COVID, we were actually turning women away because we didn't have beds. So, our population, and this is where you can help me, it's together with Windsor-Essex County, it's over 400,000. So, and when you look at the stats, so we are so underserviced, and I know we're not the only community. And so, I really, I urge, every community, all politicians and the government to provide more resources, not just for shelters and community-based services, but for all services, because there just isn't enough to meet the demand. We do everything, we safety plan with every woman, but we cannot always provide adequate shelter space for them. I hope I've answered your questions.
You certainly have. Thank you. Thank you for that answer. That was a very good answer. Again, through you, Madam Chair, to the same witness. So you had mentioned in your opening remarks, 1 in 4 women, but you believe it to be closer to 1 in 3 women. And on that same tone, then, because I was wondering before this meeting, you actually answered my question, but it takes me down another path, because if we indeed have a lot of couples now at home, would you suggest that perhaps that number could even be closer to 1 in 2? I guess is the first part of the question. And the second part of the question is, have you seen a change in the type of violence, the type of domestic violence during COVID-19? So be it mental or be it physical. I'm very curious on that front. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Our experience, and I've been working in this field and with women, really, I learned from the women with lived experiences. And what I can tell you is that I've been in this field for actually 22 years. I used to work in London and now in Windsor and Essex County, is that we know that initially the violence starts off very subtly. We see the isolation, we see the psychological abuse, and over time it does escalate. What I can tell you is with COVID-19, that has in some situations escalated the severity. We are seeing, the severity of some of the clients in terms of the risk. We're seeing many more threats to kill, threats to harm. I don't know what the criminal stats are in terms of convictions and charges, but we have seen an increase the last little while in terms of the severity. I mean, it's always been there. I think, violence against women and those severe cases and the complexity, but we are seeing much more, certainly in Windsor-Essex County, in terms of the dangers. Also with being across the border, being close to the border, we are also seeing many more cases of human trafficking. So that's
Excellent.
something that we never used to see.
Thank you so much. I know that my time is up, so I
Thank
want to
you.
say just thanks very much for coming on, and thanks for all the hard work you continue to do.
Thank you,
It's
Mr.
my
Lewis.
privilege. Thank you.